unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This episode is brought to you by White Cloud Coffee Roasters, nestled in the heart of Idaho's mountain wilderness, where every bean tells a story of adventure. Discover the difference in their premium beans, meticulously roasted to capture the essence of the mountains. Now, listeners of our podcast can get an exclusive 10% discount. Just use the promo code CREATIVITY at checkout. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com and use the code CREATIVITY.
Welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Your World of Creativity. We really take a global scope of creativity, and our mission is to connect with creative practitioners everywhere. Just in the last few weeks, we've stamped our creative passports in Italy, Australia, Israel, around the States, in LA, Austin, Miami. So we really want to understand how we get inspired for new ideas, how we organize ideas, and of course, how we gain the confidence and connections to launch our work out into the world. And I'm so happy today to talk to Dr. Francisco Aboitiz. He's at the University in Santiago, Chile. He's written a new book, and it's called A History of Bodies, Brains, and Minds. The subtitle is The Evolution of Life and Consciousness, a very deep and profound topic. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for your invitation, Mark.
Yes, this mystery of the consciousness of our brains. Maybe you could summarize some of the key points of brain evolution on this emergence of consciousness as you're outlining in the book.
Yeah, I think the main idea of the book is to try to provide a sense of continuity between life and consciousness, between the origin of life, its evolution, and consciousness. Consciousness, in a way, is a product of evolution. But then again, we come to a very tricky situation when we come to ask ourselves what consciousness is. We're pretty sure that consciousness is the product of brain function, not any brain function, because when you are anesthetized, you're not conscious. Or when you, we could discuss this later, but whether an insect is conscious in a way, or whether worms are conscious. But the point is that at least we do know that having a big and complex brain like we do have generates consciousness. But how it does it, that is the main question. I think it's the most important question of our existence. How does consciousness arise?
Yes.
And I think we're not even close to the answer. We do know that we need a brain for that, but we don't know how all these physical, chemical processes take place in the brain, all this wiring, all these mechanisms, which are highly complex. How do these processes end up in a subjective experience, in that I see you on the screen now, and I am the spectator of things, of all the world. I am the spectator. And how? Because see, there's two ways of looking at life in a way. You can see life and describe life as an observer. And I can say life is a pattern of mechanisms that undergo self-production and heredity and whatever. But the other thing is to feel that you are alive. It's two different things. One is, how does it feel to be alive? And the other, what is life as we see it? And I think this gap is tremendous. It's an existentialist issue that I'm not sure I have the answer to it. I just wrote the whole book.
Yeah, somewhere in there will
this
continue.
is an unsolved question.
That's right. That's right. What I like about the work is that you're describing both the brain function, the observing, the spectating, the describing, but also the brain anatomy. You've been talking about plasticity and talking about synapses, and the creative mind often says, oh, we're left brain and we're right brain, as if it's just function. But you've really described it as truly the way we're wired.
Yeah, it's the way we're wired. What happens is that actually I did my PhD thesis in this communication between the cerebral hemispheres. So I can tell you both the two sides of our brain are wired differently in a way,
Mm.
are wired differently. And there's many people who think that the left hemisphere is related to more analytical processing, while the other one is related, the right hemisphere is more related to holistic processing,
Mm.
which is, as a rule of thumb, okay. Not if you go into the details, this gets more complicated, but as a rule of thumb, is okay. But there are other things beside this right side and the left side of the brain that are also related to creativity. There's a network in, actually, it's in the middle of the brain. It's between the two hemispheres, in the regions that are close to each other in the hemispheres, which is called the default mode network. This set of areas activates when you're just dating. This set of areas is activated. And I think this network, the default mode network, is more related to creativity, but than the hemispheric difference, although it feeds on this asymmetry between the hemispheres. Hmm?
It's fantastic to know. I should be
Yeah.
doing more daydreaming. It sounds like.
Yeah, no, daydreaming is key for creativity. That's for sure. I'm a daydreamer. I keep daydreaming all the time, and I think my best ideas, if there are any really good of this, has come out about from daydreaming.
Fantastic. Your book also, and you just mentioned this phrase a minute ago, the subjective experience. Maybe we can drill down on that a little bit because there's a lot of theories around our understanding of consciousness and just whether we're awake and observing is one thing, but whether we're really having a full human experience, perhaps. What are some of the finer points of this?
Yeah, there are many different theories of consciousness. I would say too many. And the take home lesson from this, I think, is that when there are many or so many theories, is that are not really understanding the problem really. It's because nobody has been able to really find out what is key to consciousness. There are theories that address, some of them are really complicated, that address different aspects of consciousness. But I think there's no theory that really explains how we live the world like a first person, in a first person quality, that we are the observers of the world. Max Planck was one of the founders of quantum physics. And he said, in the end, everything starts from consciousness. We are consciousness, we're conscious, and then everything starts from there. We start asking questions. It's the same thing as René Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. It's from our minds that everything emerges. And how these minds happen. We we don't choose to have a mind. It's something we have.
Yes.
It's a given. And it's the first thing given for us, for our experience at least.
Yes. Such good insights. And on the one hand, you can think this is a very academic kind of exploration, but you've also got some provocative questions here about the consciousness in non-humans. And you mentioned, is the worm, is the fly, is the wasp, are the
Yeah.
bees conscious? And how do researchers like you think about consciousness? And then, of course, what ethical considerations might come out of that kind of thought process?
That's a very good question. Personally, I assume most animals do have a degree of consciousness, a degree of basic consciousness. They can have a sort of a subjective experience. I'm positively sure that my dogs, I have two dogs, they are conscious. Not they are conscious that they can think about themselves, not that kind of consciousness. But they do feel pain. They do feel loneliness, that kind of, this basic consciousness. I'm pretty sure that because I see them sad. Yeah, of course, I am the one that is feeling sad and projects this to the dog. But I'm pretty sure that it does too. But what about when you come to a bee, for example? There's a big controversy now about whether insects feel pain or not, because insects do not respond to damage to their bodies like vertebrates do, so to speak. Huh? They do not respond. They keep you take out a leg from a bee and it keeps doing the same thing as it. On the other hand, they do have the neural mechanisms similar to those that we have that serve as painkillers. We do have an anesthetic system that controls pain in our spinal cords. Insects do have that too. So why do they have that if they don't respond? There's a big issue around this in these days.
Absolutely. And that's why I was curious, because whether it's the ethical treatment of animals or people that
Yeah.
want to be vegans or whatever the case might be, is certainly based and predicated on the idea that these animals feel, not just act. Yes.
Exactly. Actually, and that's one big thing. And now the industry is starting to develop artificial food, which we still don't know what ecological and other kind of problems will bring this thing. For example, the revolution of AI, it turns out to be highly costly in terms of energy, in terms of pollution, in terms of anything. Artificial intelligence is very anti-ecological, so to speak. But we're working on it. And what will happen with all this synthetic food industry, we don't know. But on the other hand, you can see that now, that these guys make up some beef made out of cultured cells.
Yes.
I haven't tried them yet, so I can't say, but they look reasonably good. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up
I-
AI because I wanted to go ahead.
No, I think there is a way for people who is considering that consciousness is present in all animals. There is a way to keep feeding without killing them.
Mm.
And I think this may be a good, I think that in the future, synthetic food will place, I don't know if most, but a large part of animal. Huh?
Like I said, it's a very provocative topic. Like I said, I'm glad you brought up AI because I certainly wanted to go there to think about the potential for consciousness and how it might evolve in what might be artificial thinking systems. We're talking mainly now about language models or artistic development. But what could this mean as we develop more towards a thinking, conscious artificial intelligence?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to make a difference between intelligence and consciousness.
Hmm.
Now, I think computers and AIs are really intelligent. And in some ways, they are a lot more intelligent than us. You know that computers can beat any professional chess player at this point. And there is this game that is played in the East, which is called Go, which is a play that is very simple in rules, but it's very in, intuitive. Is that a word correct?
Yes.
And people thought that it was not going to be possible for a computer to win a human on this game. But then some company created AlphaGo, and AlphaGo beat up the world champion on Go.
Mm.
It did. And it's funny how it did it, because at some point, AlphaGo did a move that nobody understood. They thought, this is stupid. Why is the computer doing this? But based on this move, the computer won the contest. And that's creativity, or isn't it?
That's right.
Huh? And now this same program was used to predict the structure of proteins. because proteins have a structure, have an anatomy. And this has been a real issue for chemists. How do you decipher the anatomy of a protein? And now there's AlphaFold, which is the son of AlphaGo, which solved all the structure of all proteins are solved. And actually, the Nobel Prize this year in chemistry was to the developers of AlphaFold. So intelligence, I would say they are very intelligent, but I don't think they are conscious. I don't think they feel. But this is a belief also. It's just what I believe, but I don't think they feel. I don't feel they would feel pain, or they can simulate pain. And they can be very good at it. They can simulate to be compassionate. There are these bots that work as artificial therapy, and people work with them, and they really feel engaged with these bots because they feel that there is some transmission of us. But I don't think that the program is really feeling anything. It's just doing and predicting the person's behavior.
Mm.
And it's pretty good at that.
It's mirroring. Yeah. I love that you say this is your opinion, but unlike the rest of us, you have an educated opinion. So I appreciate your point of view on this.
Yeah, I think what is lacking for computers is biology.
Interesting.
I think our consciousness is the result of not only having a brain, but having a body, inside which the brain is inserted. And the body brings signals to the brain, and the brain brings signals to the body. And there's, first of all, it would have to be, so to speak, embodied, a system to be conscious. Second, in all this embodiment, there's like a constellation of layers, from the cellular to the tissues, to the organs, to the data, until you get to the brain and to the different levels that are inside of the brain. All this layered organization is lacking in computers. You just have wires there.
Yes.
And I think complexity in a way that I don't know, I don't think anybody else does, I don't know how, is necessary for the development of consciousness.
Yes, how to integrate the biology into the technology. Yeah, very insightful.
Yeah, but
We've also been talking about the creative process in general, in theory, but I'd love to drill down and talk about your own personal creative process in writing and publishing a book like The History of Bodies, Brains, and Minds. What a creative effort and an assimilation of your entire career and your entire body of work. Maybe you can share a little bit about the process that you used to develop this.
Well, published by MIT Press, and I'm going to share with you a couple of paragraphs from the introduction so that you can have a scope of what this book is about. The more we know about the universe, the more life on Earth appears as an improbable event. We are living in Carl Sagan's tiny blue dot, in a vast space filled by lifeless planets. But not only does life origin in an evolution appear to be unlikely, complex organisms, although quite abundant from our point of view, are represented by only a few small branches in the leafy tree of life. On the other hand, the origin of our species, uniquely endowed with language, technological abilities, and ultimately consciousness, is a highly mysterious event to most of us. Since we abandoned the view that we were created by God's design and are at the center of the universe, we have been left with an existentialist discomfort regarding our origins and our place in nature. Who are we, a mindful species standing on a tiny planet surrounded by other living beings, but apparently all of us alone in this vast universe? With this book, I intend to add a grain of sand to the discussion about our origins and as part of the biological work, about the emergence of our minds and consciousness, and about our possible future as species. Thanks to Charles Darwin, and Alfred Wallace, all life on Earth can be glued together through a single process, which is evolutionary theory. This would be the main thread that connects all themes discussed in this book, beginning with life's first attempt, passing through different stages in the evolution of animals and the brains, and ending with our species, provided with a not unique but highly remarkable brain that unfortunately may not guarantee our survival in the medium or long term.
And of course, on this show, we always also think about collaboration and co creators and contributors, people who really, it's never a singular solo process. And I was curious how it worked out for you.
Yeah, I have to tell you that this comes back to my childhood. I had a strong ADHD when I was a kid, you know, and I spent most of my time daydreaming and thinking about things. And I think that from this process is from which I built my own interpretation of the world. And that's why I think daydreaming is a very positive capacity that we have. Of course, people can go into overthinking, become like anxiety and all that. You have to cope with that as long as this gets controlled. This can also lead to some psychopathological problems.
Yes.
Overthinking is related to depression, to many mental issues too. But if you think and you're not able, and you don't allow this thinking to go into this, so to speak, overthinking, going into too much and repeating yourself too much the same things, I think it's a source of creativity. I
Hmm.
think it's a very strong source of creativity. And I decided to study biology because I was really interested in animals. I knew all the orders of mammals when I was like, I don't know, 12 years old. I was like a savant about animals. So I was moved by all this all the time. And then I started studying biology and I saw other things, not only animals. I saw cells, I saw genes, and the process of integrating all this was a real challenge, like it is for anyone, you know. And after having a long career, because I'm 67, so I've been around for a while. I decided that I should try to cluster everything into one thing, and I think that's a creative process to try to all the things that you have, but they have to fit together. It's not that putting them together like you have I don't know, a bunch of balls and you put them into a bag. It's not like that. They have to fit and they have to make up a story. Because one of the things that I thought when I wrote the book is I have to narrate the history, a story. Because humans, we understand the world through stories. We are storytellers and story listeners. So I tried to make up a story. I think that was and I think that was like I said again, building this story. I think it involved in many ways thinking out of the box
Hmm.
for many things so that they could fit together because they wouldn't fit like immediately.
Yes.
Mm.
Give us a little logistical picture of how you were putting that puzzle together. Imagining all your notes and all your articles and all your, is this all in a one big giant Word document? Do you have it all out on the floor? Do you have your napkins and pieces of paper laid out on a table? How are you putting your puzzle together?
Yeah, first of all, I made a diagram. First of
Mhm.
all, a big, a lo- no, no, it wasn't that big, but a diagram in which the main things that I wanted to communicate were there. And then I tried to assemble this into a string. Mm. And and then the story came out of that.
So good.
That was the mechanics of the process. Huh?
Yes. And so much of your work has been very academic, very scientific, but I think there's messages here for the lay people as well. We've been talking about the implications just for our own thinking, but did you really see this book as being something that would be academic, or did you see this as something that the rest of us could absorb?
I think the book has both things. It is academic, and I like I told you, it is mainly oriented to students. But I want students to think beyond just science. So the book is loaded with questions that I think are not answered, eh? So that they become intrigued about things.
Yes.
But but on the other hand, these questions can be understood by any lay people because they're very general questions. What is life? What is consciousness? Yeah. What is heredity? Yeah. Things like, what is this really? How do we tackle these things? It's not just an issue of, do machines can become conscious? Do machines will control us in the future? Huh? Will we live together with machines? How is it going to be?
Mm.
And this matters to anyone. Actually, I'm now thinking of writing another book, just taking these questions, leaving a little bit aside all the academic and scientific part, and just discussing these things that are of more interest to the general but educated population, of course.
Yes, of course.
You need to have some basis. If you don't really have a reasonable educational level, yeah, it's going to be more difficult.
Mhm. Yeah. But these are the questions of the day. So I'm glad you're going to continue to explore them. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a good, in your previous book, A Brain for Speech, obviously addressed a lot of those kind of issues. This brings us to date, and then look at your already thinking about the future. I love that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Folks,
Uh,
my guest has been Francisco Aboitiz, and we've been talking from Santiago, Chile, about his work, A History of Bodies, Brains, and Minds, and all the implications of that for consciousness. Dr. Aboitiz, I'd love to have people connect with you and learn more about your work. How can we find you?
Just there's my Instagram page, francisco.aboitis with Z at the end. And yeah, I think that's the easiest. They can look at me in the internet. In Google, you put Francisco Aboitis, and there's going to be some pages there.
Yeah, yeah, plenty of pages, lots of videos. That's all
Yeah.
very good. And of course, your LinkedIn profile. We'll put all those links in the show notes so people can find them
Yeah,
easily.
sure.
So,
Sure.
well, I can't thank you enough for a great conversation and yeah, not only your scientific explorations, but your creative spirit and helping us understand consciousness and creativity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Yes.
very much for this invitation again.
Oh, it's been fantastic. And listeners, come back for our next episode. We'll continue to explore these kind of creative issues. And of course, before we go, I want to thank our sponsor, White Cloud Coffee Roasters. You can enjoy a 10% discount on your order when you use the word creativity as a discount code at checkout. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com. And Francisco, it'd be great to share a cup of coffee with you there in Santiago. Do you have a favorite
Yeah.
coffee shop you like to go near your home or near the university?
Yeah, there's a couple places here. Yeah, for good coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be fantastic. It'd be great to share a cup with you.
All right.
So, again, listeners, come back again. We'll continue our around the world travels. We'll talk about how we get inspired, how we organize ideas. Francisco has talked today about diagramming and creating a story behind all this great scientific research. And we'll learn from creative practitioners about how to do that. And of course, most of all, we gain the confidence and the connection to launch our work out into the world. And that's what it's all about. So we'll see you next time. And until then, we'll keep exploring your world of creativity. Bye for now.